I'm David Hirschfelder and I am a film composer, and I have the rare privilege of scoring the music for and being musical director for Shine. Literally the first thing I did was look through the script and give comments on some of the vernacular about the relationship between David and his teacher, the professor, who was played by John Gielgud. And so we came up with ideas like what would a teacher and a student talk about, for example. And I would say, well, a classic thing is if you're playing a piece, my teacher used to say this, slow down, it's not a race. And so they said, oh, we like that, and they scribbled that down. Moments of genius was another thing that came up, is this idea. There's a few little catchphrases that we bandied about that ended up in the script.
Don't you just love those big fat chords? You have to tame the piano, David, or it'll get away from you. It's a monster. Tame it, or it'll swallow you whole. Coming along nicely, David.
The next thing was choosing the music, helping them choose the music. And of course, a lot of that was determined by David's repertoire and what he liked. And I suggested you need to speak with David and find out his pieces that mean the most to him. And of course, a lot of it's factual. You know, he did play the Rachmaninoff's Third Piano Concerto, and he did play a lot of Liszt pieces, and Sospiro, and to name a few. And the Chopin Polonaises and things. These were all part of his repertoire. So we set to work getting a long short list of piano pieces that would become featured as part of his musical journey and also used as underscore. The first meeting I had with David Hirschfelder, I was flown to his home in Bellingen, and I was greeted by Gillian, and delightful woman, and Jane, Scott, and Scott Hicks were both there as well. And we had dinner, and David was, and I met David then, and we are talking, and he was the most remarkable person I've ever met, because he was talking constantly about music, and he was mixing discussion about all the pieces he liked to play, mixed with aphorisms about. He was constantly talking about traffic analogies and saying there's a lot of traffic and you've got to be careful, otherwise you might have a crash, and you've got to be careful, you've got to watch the traffic in order to survive. And I thought, what's he talking about? He's talking about all the notes. There's a lot to think about when you're playing the piano, and it is a bit like driving a car in very intense traffic. And I instantly got a lot of an insight into his character, but I also noticed as he was playing, and we sat, and he played beautifully, and he could play anything from memory. He had a remarkable memory. I mean, he's really prodigious talent. And he could talk the entire time, and then he could sing other tunes. While he's playing one tune, he could be singing and talking about another piece. And he did this quite often, and it astounded me. But I quickly realized that we're going to have to record him. We can't record him traditionally with a microphone, because when he's playing his best, he's talking and singing, and that's what he likes doing. So we devised, I said, we have to devise a method of recording him where we can record him electronically using, and I discovered I knew already of a keyboard which had solenoid motors, so that every time you hit a note, that is recorded by a reverse player piano mechanism, and then that is then translated into data, which is fed into a computer. And so we could record, and also the pedals, so the sustain pedals, so we could record every aspect of David's playing using technology, reverse player piano technology called a disclavier. And then that way he was free to talk and sing and play while he's playing, without us worrying about the microphones picking that up. And then we would then play back his recordings from the computer. and set up the microphones and get different perspectives, even get different pianos. We could have a grand piano playing the same piece, and then we could take the same data and hook it up to a smaller upright disclavier. So you'd get that small upright sound, so we could literally cross-fade from a rehearsal piano to a full concert instrument. Even though I'm classically trained, I produced a lot of, I went through a stage in my earlier career of being involved with a lot of contemporary music and contemporary artists. So David was the first classical musician I worked with, and he was also a really unique character in that he was completely eccentric. It's fine coming from me, I'm rather eccentric myself, but he was very, he spoke in riddles, and he still does, and so I decided the best way to capture his artistry, which is really astounding. I mean, he's an incredible pianist, an incredible talent. And the best way to capture him was to record him electronically, as we described, and really to allow him, I quickly learned the best way is to make him feel comfortable so he could play in the environments that he wanted to. And so we recorded him in a number of ways. We recorded him in a room like this on a disclavier. We also recorded him in concert because he liked playing for people. So because it didn't matter, we could record his performance on the disclavier at a small concert auditorium and just take all the recordings and edit them together with the other recordings we did in private. And this is where he's rather like Glenn Gould. He would like to have a lot of noise around him while he was playing and practicing. Glenn Gould was famous for practicing with the television going and the radio going, and he would encourage his cleaner to vacuum the house because he said it made him focus on what he was actually doing. David Hirschfelder seemed to have that same sort of focus. And I remember one time he was playing a Liszt piece, and we were recording it because we recorded everything he played, his rehearsals, when he was in performance mode. So we were recording it, and on the radio, Elgar's cello concerto came on, and he started singing along with that while he was playing. And I thought, how are you doing that? I mean, he really is an extraordinary, his mind is an extraordinary music machine. I would say to him, David, we will take all the moments and all the fragments of your performance, and we will glue them together and manufacture a performance. And he said, oh, tragic fragments, tragic fragments. And I said, no, magic fragments. That's what we're here to do. We're here to get the magic fragments. Ah, that's positive, magic fragments.